Alright, so I know I'm a bit late to the party on this one, but let's talk about Antoine Griezmann and the whole idea of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Brand ambassador. So, for those of you guys who don't know, about a month or so ago, it was announced by Konami EU that Yu-Gi-Oh! Would have what I suppose is its first brand ambassador. It's this guy, Antoine Griezmann, who I'm probably butchering that name, but you'll know how to pronounce it if you know how to pronounce it. If you don't, you don't. The point is, it's this guy who is a professional soccer player, I believe from France, and so I think that Konami, because they make their soccer game Pro Evolution Soccer every year, it's one of their more popular ones. I suppose they, knew some people in the contracting, licensing, sponsory department, pulled some strings, and they get this guy, Antoine Griezmann, and he becomes the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Brand ambassador. And they made a pretty big deal about this. There were some social media posts and videos, of him talking about like how he got into Yu-Gi-Oh, maybe what his favorite monsters were, things like that. A really cool interview actually where Lithium 2300, who is a pretty well-known Yu-Gi tuber, interviewed him and was like asking him like, do you know like what this card does, or how did you get into Yu-Gi-Oh, those sorts of things. What's your favorite monster? Interesting interview because in the interview you can kind of see that he's very much more of like a nostalgic Yu-Gi-Oh fan, or I don't even know if like a fan's the word. I mean, he knew about like the Duelist Kingdom arc, but he didn't seem to really know too much about like what the cards do or like even necessarily what they are. I'm not really holding that part against him. I know some people have, but that's not really the point of this video. Okay, so that all happens, and I see this, and I was like, okay, this is interesting, I guess. Cool. A person that is kind of more in the mainstream is interested in Yu-Gi-Oh! That sounds pretty awesome. One other thing I forgot to mention too is that he was going to get to design his own custom card, and it would be released in a product, I suppose, later this year or next year. And that was a neat concept. I don't know if that meant like he got to customize the whole card and its effect and everything, or maybe more so just kind of like the name and the artwork, and then Konami would do the card balancing and effect. Don't know. None of that will happen though, because it was revealed last week that Konami was canceling that contract, cutting those ties, and the reason why is because it came out just a couple of weeks ago that, Jesus, all happened in pretty rapid succession. It came out a couple of weeks ago that he was at visiting a hotel with his team. I suppose they were traveling or something, and one of his teammates was making some racist remarks towards some Asian hotel workers. I believe something along the lines of, maybe insulting either how they look or I think how they speak. And so he was making these jokes, and Antoine can also be like seen and heard in the video laughing and I guess agreeing with it, maybe goading him along. They say that it isn't known exactly like if he was making the jokes as well or just sort of like agreeing, but either way, it's not a great look. I think two different videos actually came out about that, so yeah, not a great look. People were pretty upset about this, and they're like, wow, okay, so this guy's representing Yu-Gi-Oh! That's not cool. Konami pretty quickly caught wind of it and axed that contract, and now he is no more. So, what do I think about all of this as a Yu-Gi tuber and as I guess a player and a person and a lover of Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, complicated thoughts, because the first thing that I've seen a lot of people say is Konami must have clearly not vetted this guy. And that, I mean, it seems like outside of this incident, there's not really much to say about this guy. He's a professional soccer player, and so, I mean, maybe he's had the smallest mini controversies, but I don't think that that was like necessarily a thing. I heard that he had maybe done blackface or something a few years ago, but I've gotten like mixed things about like whether or not that was like him doing it to be offensive, or whether or not he thought like he was misunderstanding like something about it and it wasn't about doing blackface and he apologized. So whatever, that's fine. I believe people can apologize and change, but this is a very recent thing, so it seems like it's maybe something that Konami couldn't have foreseen. I'm sure that from Konami's end, they're very upset about this because A, it's a bad look to literally get, this contract with this guy and then have to like cancel it a month later. And it also just does look as though maybe you didn't vet him. It doesn't help that he didn't really seem to know a lot of card effects and card names in that one interview. But I think that the thing that worries me the most about this is just that I think Konami won't do another brand ambassador idea again. Because here's the thing you guys gotta realize about Konami, and it's, you can probably guess, and I don't know like all the intricacies of this company, but here's the thing. At Konami, things are kind of run like with an iron fist. There's a lot of red tape. There seems to be a lot of bureaucracy. It's very vertically integrated. For those who don't know, that just means that like, you know, you got a boss, your boss has got a boss, your boss has got a boss, your boss has got a boss. Like, if anything kind of needs to change or happen, or you want to get like a project or an idea or just some initiative approved, there's a lot of red tape. You know, you gotta get approval, then it's gotta get more approval, then it's gotta get more approval. I've dealt with this even when it comes to doing like sponsored videos with Konami. You guys may not know this, but it can kind of be difficult. You know, there's like usually strict guidelines on like what they do and don't want you to say, what they do and don't want you to include, how they kind of want the tone and everything, and then like you have to get it approved. And sometimes that can be really tedious. They might ask you to edit or change small stuff and then send it in for another approval, and then like you can post it. And it's very tedious. You know, with like ex-Konami employees that I've spoken to, they've all kind of corroborated this. It can be a pretty harsh place to work in that way, and it makes it very difficult for them to get many changes or initiatives through. That's probably a lot of why we don't get a lot of the cool things we want in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like just more communication from them, or things that seem like they'd be really obvious. I think with Konami, it's there's so much stair stepping that has to be done to get things done, and yeah, obviously that really sucks. I don't know what kind of black magic they pulled to even be able to like get the idea of a brand ambassador approved. In my experience, Konami is quite, and Shueisha really, because that's the company that sort of owns like the Yu-Gi-Oh license or whatever, and they license it out to Konami and a bunch of complications like that. I'm very surprised that they were able to even get this whole thing approved, like just getting a brand ambassador. I don't even know like what they plan for a brand ambassador to do necessarily, because this is clearly a guy who doesn't really play Yu-Gi-Oh. I guess it was just meant to be like maybe he would have the Yu-Gi-Oh logo on his jersey, maybe he would occasionally like talk about it in interviews, maybe they would have him do some skits or something, or promote some product somehow more publicly, like on his social media. The idea of a brand ambassador isn't necessarily a bad thing. A lot of companies try to do it. You know, getting a celebrity, LeBron James, he's been with like plenty of things. That's a great example. And like, you know, it's oftentimes something that the celebrity doesn't necessarily even like care very much about, but that's how it works. So this isn't very uncommon in that way. It's just, it sucks that it kind of worked this way, because I think that Konami is going to be so defensive about this and so just like upset with the whole thing, especially Konami Japan, that it's just unlikely that we'll see another brand ambassador. And that to me is a bit of a disappointment, because I was excited to see like where this type of thing would go. Now another thing about this too is that I saw a lot of people on social media saying that, well, the brand ambassador shouldn't have been this random guy who's a good athlete but doesn't know anything barely about Yu-Gi-Oh! It should have been somebody within the community who's well known. I saw a lot of people like mentioning Team APS, for instance, and I saw lots of people like on Twitter and stuff who were saying like they'd be a better brand ambassador because, you know, they've got like a big Yu-Gi-Oh collection and they play lots of Yu-Gi-Oh and they love Yu-Gi-Oh and they make content and all that stuff. The unfortunate sort of thing about that is that when looking for a brand ambassador, it's really in a company's best interest to find somebody who is sort of, who transcends the core audience of the game or the product or the brand. So the person that you'd want to be representing Yu-Gi-Oh would actually be a celebrity. You'd want, you know, a famous athlete or a famous, you know, movie star or singer, rapper, whatever. That's kind of where you would want to be, because this is a person who has mainstream appeal, and so they have the ability to, you know, influence and really sway a lot of people to be interested in Yu-Gi-Oh. So as a result, you kind of end up with like just it's a more broadly appealing thing for the Yu-Gi-Oh brand, as opposed to somebody who's already known for playing Yu-Gi-Oh within the community. But like, let's say that they had like Team Samurai X1, right, as a brand ambassador, or DZ or SEMO or something. That wouldn't really get any new eyes. I mean, the people who watch SEMO or Sam or me or whoever are just Yu-Gi-Oh players, people who already know about Yu-Gi-Oh, so that's not really pulling any more people into things. So while it's nice that, you know, there are people in our community who would do a much better job, I think, of like representing Yu-Gi-Oh in a positive way that kind of suits the brand, that's not really in the interest of getting that growth from Konami's end. So that's sort of my take on that. It's a little unfortunate. I know that comes up a lot. I remember there were people who were upset, like when they, like I've been in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links commercial. Some Team APS members, we got to be in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links commercial. This was sometime last year, around September. You might have seen it. This is when they released the Zexal World thing, and it was us and a few other like gaming creators. And people were upset because they thought, well, okay, they should have had like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links streamers and creators. They should have been the ones in this commercial. Why is it these like people who either play the TCG or like these big random gaming creators? And it's for the same reason. It's just because that allows new eyes and a new audience to be exposed to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, because what they want is growth out of this. They don't just want to celebrate the existing people who play. That might sound scumbaggy. I'm just saying it as it is. That's sort of the reality. So, yeah. Any final thoughts from me? I mean, it's just a pretty shitty situation, honestly. I don't like it. I would really prefer that it didn't happen. I hope that they will not take this so much to heart. Like, if they can find another brand ambassador. Somebody that a lot of people have talked about is that guy who was like an NFL player. I don't remember his name, but he actually played Yu-Gi-Oh! He, I think, played Thunder Dragons. Like, and this was like in 2019 or something. He topped a YCS or like won a regional. He did some things. He talked about liking Yu-Gi-Oh! He was on some team. I'm gonna say it, and like people are gonna know that's wrong. I don't know that much about the NFL, but anyways, that was a thing. And so people thought he would be a better one. I agree. I think it seems like somebody who's a little bit more informed about the game would be a better pick. So hopefully they don't just stop this altogether. I do want there to be a brand ambassador. I like the idea of it. I want someone mainstream. I want someone, who can make this game popular, because if the game becomes more popular, then more people play and more products get to come out and more stuff gets bought and more like people get to experience and enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! That's a good overall thing. I fear that it probably won't happen, and I guess we won't get whatever cool card Antoine Griezmann was going to come up with. So, all in all, very unfortunate situation. I guess my take on it is what it is. That's the reason why maybe it's just tough for Konami to even take such a risk with their baby. And hopefully we get something good out of it in the future. Anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'm very interested in hearing, because it's just an unprecedented, weird, funny, and unfortunate situation all at the same time. Alright, that's going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Pass turn.